Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today is another episode of reviewing NHL teams offseason so far, as today we got the Philadelphia Flyers, as they were pretty damn busy this past offseason. As you guys all know, they missed out on the playoffs. They had a pretty disappointing season, and did they ever turn it around? I guess there was some moves that I liked. There was a lot of moves that I didn't like the Russolini move I didn't really love, but you know, the Ryan Ellis move I absolutely adored. So let's get right into this, but before I do, I'd like to just say, if you are new to the channel, make sure to stop that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. So let's get into this puppy here with the Philadelphia Flyers, and they made a decent amount of moves, you know, going after Cam Atkinson, which I enjoyed, Ryan Ellis and Russolini, you know, locking up Hart for the next 3 years, sold a decent contract, Yandle getting him on a nice, you know, $900,000 deal. I liked a lot of what, you know, the Philadelphia Flyers did, but, you know, there's also some deals that, you know, I wasn't too big of a fan of, like picking up Russolini, I think is a huge, big question mark going into this upcoming season. He's not a very reliant defenseman, and he's never really had any good seasons there in Buffalo. And for people like, oh, it's Buffalo, no one plays good there, Jake McCabe did. Jake McCabe played tremendously in Buffalo and put up some really good analytics. But Rasmus Russolini did not. He just was not very good analytically, and I really do not like what they traded for him, you know, the amount of picks, which we'll get right into. Let's get right into these, you know, these trades, which I guess we could talk about the Russolini trade right off the get-go, since we were talking about this one. They gave up Haig, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. Now, of course, there wasn't, you know, this draft's not a huge, deep draft in 2021. You know, the first round, you know, wasn't the deepest draft, so it was smart, you know, to trade away a first-round pick for a defenseman, just not Rasmus Russolini, who throughout his entire career just never showed good defensive numbers. Now, will he be able to turn that around? Maybe. It's a big maybe here with Rasmus Russolini on whether or not he's going to be able to turn around his career or not. And I'd like to see if he's going to be able to or not as well. Like, it's going to be an exciting season whether or not he's going to become, you know, the defenseman that he was supposed to come, you know, a long time ago. And maybe this is the place for him, you know, to maybe do that. But a lot of players have come to Philadelphia and have not done very good. So we'll have to see how well Rasmus Russolini does. But the other move that I really enjoyed was where they picked up Ryan Ellis for Philip Myers and Nolan Patrick. Now, they did trade a decent amount away on this deal. Trading away Philip Myers sucks. And also Nolan Patrick, who, you know, was inconsistent and wasn't able to find his game. But you get a pretty much a top 2 caliber defenseman in Ryan Ellis, who, you know, at 30 years old and is on a decent contract for the next 6 years at $6.25 million. I think this is a perfect pickup here by the Philadelphia Flyers. A really nice trade, and they got a really nice defenseman in Ryan Ellis, and I think this trade worked out tremendously. And then a little bit of a capped up, getting rid of Shane Gostisbehere, which kind of sucks, but in the end, you got in Ellis, and there was really no room for Gostisbehere up that left-hand side. I mean, you already had Provorov and Sanheim, and you really didn't have any room anywhere else, and you brought in Keith Yandle, so what's the point of having Gostisbehere there? It sucks. He was, you know, tremendous-looking defenseman a while ago, kind of fell off a little bit. You know, he's been up and down, but really was not enjoyed by the coach. Vigneault really did not enjoy Gostisbehere there, and it's just better off if you just get rid of him, dump him off to some other team, which they did. This deal, of course, we already talked about, which I think is a loss for Philly, and then they picked up Cam Atkinson, which they actually saved a decent amount, and they got a decent goal scoring Cam Atkinson as well, who, you know, 2 years ago threw up 41 goals when the team had some good offensive weapons, and I think this guy could be a very powerful goal scorer here for the Philadelphia Flyers, who could throw up, you know, 20 to 30 goals a season moving forward for the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, of course, he is a bit older, not a bad contract either. For the next 4 years, they're only paying him at $5.875 million. And this is also not really even buyout proof. They could buy out his contract pretty easily, and they wouldn't really have to worry about it either if they, you know, want to buy him out. But Cam Atkinson's going to be a really good goal scorer moving forward for the Philadelphia Flyers, and so far a lot of the trades they won. You know, the Ellis one they won, Gostisbehere one, of course, is an automatic L. Same with the Russolini one. I think is an automatic L as well. I really just don't like, Russolini. I don't think he'll be able to turn it around, and I could totally be proven wrong, totally, but I just don't have a lot of belief in Russolini. And the Atkinson Voracek, move, Voracek was having some problems, and, he wasn't, having problems with the media. I don't know if he was having problems in the locker room or whatever it may be, but I like the deal. They picked up Atkinson, who could be a goal scorer. Voracek was more of your playmaker, and Atkinson is just a perfect player for the Philadelphia Flyers, and a guy that could play on the all up and down the first line, your first, second, third, wherever you need this guy to be. He could be on the power play. I think he's just going to be a really powerful guy for the Philadelphia Flyers. Moving on towards the draft, I think they had quite a decent draft. They got a nice goaltender there in Kolosov. He looks quite good, and also Tumalia also looks like quite a good prospect as well. And I think they had a decent draft. If they kept that first round pick, they could have probably got another decent prospect. But they did quite well with the picks that they had. Tumalia was a nice pick. I don't know about the other guys, but not a bad draft for the Philadelphia Flyers. And now moving on towards the free agency and all that, we'll get into all the signings that they did, because they were pretty busy with a lot of the signings that they, throughout the offseason. First of all, they got Scott Lawton onto a 5-year, $3 million deal, which, not a bad move. Scott Lawton is a great, third or fourth line guy. He was putting up a lot of points this past season, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, not a lot of points, but 20 points in 53 games. He was decent in the playoffs a year before in the 2019-20 season. He's really good in the playoffs, and he's good defensively. That's the biggest thing with Scott Lawton. He brings that physical presence. He's a good defensive guy. Signed him to, locking him up for the next 5 years at $3 million. Not a bad idea. Maybe a little bit less on the cap hit, but still not a bad contract for a guy that plays pretty well defensively. Otherwise, you got Nate Thompson, a guy that, could play, fourth, be a depth guy. He's not too big of a guy, probably only going to be a guy that plays, 7-6 minutes, and most of the time will be on the PK. And then Martin Jones, I really am not a big fan of this move. Martin Jones has not been a good, goaltender over the past little bit. Past 3 years, he has not been a consistent goaltender. Has been throwing under 800 save percentage. And if they believe that they're going to be able to turn this guy around, maybe he's, good friends with Carter Hart. I don't care. He's not going to be a good goaltender. At $2 million, I don't think he's a good backup goaltender to back up Carter Hart, who also had a pretty rough year last year and relied a lot on Brian Elliott. And if Carter Hart once again stumbles again and they have to rely on Martin Jones, I don't think it's going to be a good goaltending duo if Carter Hart, doesn't play as well as what he was doing in his first year. If Carter Hart goes back to prime Hart and he plays really good this upcoming season, then everything could change for the Philadelphia Flyers. But if they don't get good Carter Hart this year and they have to rely a lot on Martin Jones, I don't think it's going to be a very good season for the Philadelphia Flyers. Then also Keith Yandle, I really like the move there. Nice offensive defenseman in Keith Yandle, a guy who threw up 27 points, could play on your power play, and a power play that was struggling last year for the Philadelphia Flyers. I think Keith Yandle will help a lot on that, and they don't have to pay him that much either, which I really like the deal there. Sanheim, 2 years, $4.65 million for him as well. I really like that deal as well. Nice defenseman, could play good offense, play really good defense as well. On not a bad contract either for the next 2 years. And then these are the big ones. Sean Couturier locked up for the next 8 years at $7.75 million, which I absolutely love this deal, and I'll show you guys why. Now, make sure to go check out my boy Jfresh. His link will be down in the description below for his Patreon. He has amazing analytics up on there, and I'm going to be showing you one of his cards now. And this is Sean Couturier, and this is why I absolutely love this deal. Sean Couturier is a great defensive player. He puts up some great offense too. He plays on the PK. He practically does everything you need him to do. And he's their top line centerman there for the Philadelphia Flyers, probably for the long time to come. And I really like that deal. Locking up your top line centerman and Sean Couturier to a really nice team-friendly deal is perfect. That's what you want. And getting them locked up on that type of deal is just absolutely amazing. And I think it's perfect value for Sean Couturier. And then Joel Farabee, who had a great season this year, great rookie season for Joel Farabee, or I guess his second season in the NHL. He threw up 38 points in 55 games. Showed some great potential. I don't know if he's, going to be worth this $5 million, but he's still very young, still has a lot of upside, and I think he could, build into this contract. I don't know about the first year. The first year is a little bit, and I don't know if he's really worth it, but I think later on down the years, once he starts, you know, getting into a bit of his prime, I think this could be a killer player for the Philadelphia Flyers, especially showing what he was able to do this year. He could be, you know, a guy that scores you, you know, 20, 30 goals a season, putting up, you know, 50, you know, maybe even a bit more than that, 70 some points a season, 60 around there. I think Joel Farabee will be a very good player moving forward, and I think he could build up to be this amount, you know, this value. I think Joel Farabee's pretty much, it is worth it. Joel Farabee, you know, definitely not, you know, the greatest analytics in the world, definitely not the best defensive player in the world, but if he's able to throw up 20, 30 goals a season and he's only making $5 million for the next 6 years, I think that's a really, really good contract for the Philadelphia Flyers. And honestly, a lot of these deals, you know, that we're talking about is really good value. You know, they're getting a lot of good bang for your buck for a lot of these deals that they signed with Scott Lawton, with Sean Couturier, with Carter Hart. You know, only 3 years at $3.979 million. And same with Joel Farabee. You know, really good term and, you know, really good cap hit for a lot of these players. And then Derrick Bressard as well, they just signed not that long ago to a 1 year, $825,000 deal, which, you know, the Philadelphia Flyers, they look quite well. I like what they did this offseason. You know, they built up their team a little bit. You know, of course, Morgan Frost is going to have to play big time. I think, you know, a lot of Philadelphia Flyers fans have belief that he could possibly maybe take, you know, that second line position for the Philadelphia Flyers, maybe even the third line. I don't know what they're exactly going to do. Maybe Claude Giroux comes back as a centerman on that second line to play with JVR. I guess Kevin Haynes. Yeah, they do have Kevin Haynes too. I totally missed out on him, but he's on the injury reserve as well. But I think the Philadelphia Flyers look quite well, especially once you put Kevin Haynes here, maybe for Morgan Frost down at that third line position. This team looks really, really sick. You know, Rasmus Ristolainen's a big question mark. Their goaltending's a big question mark this year as well on whether or not Carter Hart will be able to bounce back. But, you know, adding Cam Atkinson, Joel Farabee locked up, their offensive core looks pretty good. I gotta say, you know, like, you have Travis Konecny playing as your third liner, and you got some serious depth there in Philly, and I think this should be a really good season for the Philadelphia Flyers. I like a lot of the additions that they added. You know, there's only a few that I didn't like, which was the Rasmus Ristolainen one, and every other contract that they signed. I think it was good term, great value for almost every single player that they signed, but for the Martin Jones signing, I didn't agree with that one, but every other signing I think was really good for the Philadelphia Flyers, and I like what they did. So I'm going to give this offseason a B+. Now, the reason why I'm going to give it a B+ is because Martin Jones, I don't think it was the smartest bet to go after. Their draft was okay, and also the Rasmus Russolini trade. I really did not like a lot of those moves that they did. That's why I'm giving them a B+. If they didn't trade for Rasmus Russolini, this would have been an A- offseason for the Philadelphia Flyers. But for the fact that they went after Russolini and the Martin Jones as well, and, you know, the decent draft, I think I'm going to go with a B+. And let me guys know in the comment section below what you guys thought of the Philadelphia Flyers offseason. I know Steele and Pearl of Wisdom are going to be watching this one intensely to see what my thoughts were. And I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. So let me guys know in the comment section below. But for right now, guys, I'm going to end the video here, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Adios, amigos.